The cold steel of a pistol pressed against Ruby Barton's temple as her father's drunken voice slurred through the dim light of their rundown cabin. $25 for the girl, Blackwell. Take her or leave her. The year was 1873, and in Nevada City, California, a young woman's life could be bartered away like cattle at market. Ruby trembled, her 18 years of life seeming to flash before her eyes as Maxwell Blackwell, the most feared rancher in Nevada County, assessed her with cold, calculating eyes. His weathered face, scarred from bar fights and ruthless business dealings, twisted into a sinister smile. 15, Blackwell countered, spitting tobacco juice onto the dirt floor near Ruby's feet. Her father, Thomas Barton, grabbed a fistful of her auburn hair, yanking her head back. Look at her, healthy, strong, can cook and clean, worth every penny of 25. Ruby bit her lip to keep from crying out. Since her mother's death 3 years ago from consumption, her father had spiraled into a world of whiskey and gambling debts. Now he was selling his only daughter to clear those debts to a man known for working his ranch hands to death and treating women like property. 20, Blackwell finally said, pulling coins from a leather pouch. And only because I need someone to replace the Mexican girl who ran off last month. The coins clinked as they fell into her father's eager palm. $20, that was her worth. Get your things, her father commanded, not meeting her eyes. There's nothing I want from this place, Ruby replied, her voice barely above a whisper. 3 years of abuse had taught her to speak softly, to move like a ghost through her own home. Blackwell gripped her arm, his fingers digging into her flesh. Good, less to carry. He dragged her toward the door. You belong to me now, girl. As they stepped into the cool evening air, Ruby cast one last glance at the cabin where she'd been born, where her mother had once sung her to sleep. Her father had already closed the door, likely pouring himself another drink with his blood money. The journey to Blackwell Ranch was 5 miles of silence, with Ruby perched uncomfortably on the back of Blackwell's wagon. The ranch sprawled across the foothills, one of the largest operations in the county. What might have been impressive under different circumstances now loomed like a prison in the moonlight. You'll sleep in the cookhouse, Blackwell instructed as they pulled up to a cluster of buildings. Dawn to dusk you work, cooking, cleaning, mending, whatever needs doing. You disobey, you get punished. You run, I'll hunt you down and make you wish you were dead. Understand? Ruby nodded, her throat too tight for words. Good. He shoved her toward a small building with smoke curling from its chimney. Martha will show you your duties. Start earning your keep tomorrow. Martha turned out to be a gray-haired woman with hands gnarled from decades of hard labor. Her face bore the permanent imprint of resignation as she showed Ruby a small pallet in the corner of the cookhouse. He's bought 3 girls before you, Martha whispered when Blackwell was out of earshot. 1 died from a beating. 1 ran off. 1 killed herself. Whatever you do, don't catch his eye when he's been drinking. That night, Ruby curled into herself on the thin straw mattress, too terrified to cry. The sounds of the ranchmen's coarse laughter from the bunkhouse, horses nickering in the stables, were foreign and threatening. She had traded one hell for another, with no hope of escape. Dawn broke harsh and unforgiving. Ruby was jolted awake by Martha's rough shake. Up. 20 ranch hands need feeding, and the master wants biscuits with his eggs. The day passed in a blur of exhaustion. Ruby's hands cracked and bled from the lye soap as she washed endless dishes and scrubbed floors. When she dropped a plate, Blackwell slapped her so hard she saw stars, her cheek burning with the imprint of his hand. Clumsy bitch, he snarled. That comes from your pay. I'm not being paid, Ruby dared to say. His laugh chilled her blood. Your pay is staying alive, girl. Days turned to weeks. Ruby learned the rhythm of the ranch, the safest paths to avoid Blackwell, the hiding places where she could catch a moment's rest. She befriended a few of the younger ranch hands who slipped her extra food when the cook wasn't looking, but none dared to openly defy Blackwell. It was during the spring cattle drive preparations that everything changed. Blackwell had hired additional hands, and the ranch was buzzing with activity. Ruby was hauling water from the well when a deep voice stopped her. "Let me help you with that, miss." She turned to find herself looking up at a stranger tall, broad-shouldered, with kind blue eyes that crinkled at the corners. His Stetson was pulled low, but she could see sandy blonde hair beneath it. "I shouldn't be talking to you," Ruby said quickly, glancing around for Blackwell. "I don't see how carrying water requires permission," the man replied, taking the heavy buckets from her hands. "I'm Beau Mitchell. Just signed on for the drive to Sacramento." "Ruby Barton," she answered automatically, then winced. She wasn't supposed to use her family name anymore. "Just Ruby now, I suppose." Beau's eyes narrowed slightly. "You're not like the other workers here." "I'm not a worker," she said bitterly. "I'm property. Purchased fair and square for $20. The shock that registered on his face was genuine. "That's not possible. Slavery's illegal." "Tell that to Mr. Blackwell." She took the buckets back. "Thank you for your help, Mr. Mitchell, but I need to get these to the cookhouse before I'm missed." Ruby hurried away, but throughout the day she felt Beau's eyes following her. At dinner, when she served the men their stew, he made a point to thank her, something no one else ever did. His kindness was dangerous. It made her hope, and hope was a luxury she couldn't afford. That night, Blackwell summoned her to the main house. Her heart hammering, Ruby obeyed, knowing what often happened to girls called to the big house after dark. "You were talking to the new hand today," Blackwell said without preamble, pouring himself a generous whiskey. "He offered to help with the water, sir. That's all." "I don't pay men to flirt with my property." Blackwell approached her, alcohol fumes overwhelming. "Maybe it's time you learned what you're really here for." His hand reached for her bodice, and Ruby stepped back involuntarily. The movement enraged him. His open palm connected with her face, sending her sprawling. "You don't back away from me, girl." The second blow caught her ribs, driving the air from her lungs. Ruby curled into a protective ball as kicks rained down. Through her terror, she heard the front door crash open. "Get away from her." Beau Mitchell's voice thundered through the room. Blackwell wheeled around. "This is none of your business, cowboy. I'm making it my business." Beau's hand hovered near his holster. "No man treats a woman like that while I'm breathing." "She's mine. I paid for her." "How much?" Beau demanded. Blackwell laughed cruelly. "You couldn't afford her. Try me." Beau pulled out a leather pouch and tossed it onto the table. The clinking of coins echoed in the sudden silence. Curiosity got the better of Blackwell. He opened the pouch, eyes widening at the gold inside. "Where'd a saddle tramp like you get this kind of money?" "I've been saving for my own spread," Beau said evenly. "How much for the girl?" Ruby watched in disbelief as the men haggled over her as if she were a prized mare. Blackwell, seeing the chance for easy profit, finally named his price. $100. Without hesitation, Beau counted out the coins. "Done." "Beau, no," Ruby whispered, finding her voice. "You can't." "Quiet," Blackwell snapped. "Transaction's complete. She's yours. Get her off my property." Beau helped Ruby to her feet, his touch gentle on her bruised arms. "Can you walk?" he asked softly. She nodded, still stunned by what had just transpired. In silence, they left the house, Beau guiding her toward the stables. "Why?" she finally managed to ask as he saddled a horse. "Because no one deserves what he was doing to you," Beau replied simply. "I've got a small cabin up in the foothills. You'll be safe there until you decide what you want to do. You just spent your savings on a stranger." Beau's smile was sad. Some things are worth more than land, Miss Barton. They rode through the night, Ruby clinging to Beau's waist as his horse picked its way along mountain trails. Every jolt sent pain shooting through her bruised body, but the growing distance from Blackwell Ranch made it bearable. Dawn was breaking when they arrived at a small cabin nestled among pine trees. It was simple but solid, with a corral for horses and a small garden plot. "It's not much," Beau said as he helped her dismount, "but it's private. No one comes up here." Inside, the cabin was neat and Spartan: a stone fireplace, a wooden table with 2 chairs, a narrow bed in one corner, shelves of provisions along one wall. "You take the bed," Beau said. "I'll sleep by the fire." Ruby stood awkwardly in the center of the room. "I don't understand why you're doing this." Beau busied himself lighting the fire. "My sister," he said after a long pause. "She was sold to pay my father's debts when I was 14. By the time I found her 3 years later, she was." He shook his head, unable to continue. "I'm sorry," Ruby whispered. "I couldn't save her, but I saw you and I thought maybe this time." He straightened, composing himself. "You're not a slave, Miss Barton. That paper Blackwell signed means nothing. You're free to go wherever you want. I just wanted to give you that choice." "I have nowhere to go," she admitted. "No family, no money." "Then stay as long as you need to," Beau said. "No expectations, no conditions, just rest and heal." For the first time in years, Ruby felt something like hope unfurling in her chest. "Thank you, Mr. Mitchell." "Beau," he corrected with a gentle smile. "Get some sleep, Ruby. You're safe now." In the days that followed, Ruby's body slowly healed. The bruises faded from angry purple to sickly yellow, and the sharp pain in her ribs dulled to an occasional twinge. What healed more slowly was her spirit, damaged by years of her father's neglect and Blackwell's cruelty. Beau proved to be as good as his word. He slept on a bedroll near the hearth, gave Ruby her space, and never made inappropriate advances. During the day, he worked his small holding tending to his horses, hunting, making repairs to the cabin. Ruby, once strong enough, insisted on contributing by cooking and keeping the cabin in order. "You don't need to earn your keep here," Beau told her one evening as she served a rabbit stew she'd prepared. "I'm not doing it because I have to," Ruby replied. "I'm doing it because I want to, because it feels good to do something of my own choosing." Beau smiled at that, understanding in his eyes. Their conversations grew longer as Ruby's confidence returned. She learned that Beau had worked ranches across 4 states, saving every penny toward his dream of a horse breeding operation. The cabin and the small parcel of land were just the beginning. "I've got my eye on the canyon property that borders this land," he explained one evening. "Good water, good grazing, just need another season or 2 of wages to make an offer." "But you spent your savings on me," Ruby said, the guilt she'd been carrying bubbling to the surface. Beau shrugged. "Money comes and goes. Some things are more important." As spring turned to summer, Ruby ventured further from the cabin each day, exploring the mountainside, gathering wild berries and herbs. The fresh air and freedom were intoxicating after her confinement at Blackwell Ranch. One afternoon, returning from such a walk, she found Beau shoeing one of his horses. She paused to watch him work, admiring the confident way he handled the powerful animal, the strength in his tanned forearms as he drove in the nails. He glanced up, catching her observation, and smiled. Ruby felt her cheeks warm as she quickly looked away. That evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the mountains gold, Beau cleared his throat nervously. "I need to ride into Nevada City tomorrow for supplies," he said. "Would you like to come along? Might do you good to see something besides these trees." Ruby hesitated. "What if Blackwell is there? I heard he's away at a cattle auction in Sacramento, But if you're worried, no, Ruby decided firmly. I'd like to go, I won't hide forever. The next morning they set off early, Ruby riding a gentle mare Beau had been training. The journey took most of the morning, and as the town came into view, Ruby felt a mixture of anxiety and determination. Nevada City was bustling with its usual mix of miners, merchants, and travelers. Ruby kept close to Beau as they hitched their horses outside the general store. Inside, the shopkeeper greeted Beau warmly. "Mitchell, haven't seen you in weeks. Who's your lovely companion?" "This is Miss Ruby Barton," Beau said, a note of pride in his voice that made Ruby's heart flutter strangely. They gathered supplies: flour, coffee, sugar, ammunition, and Ruby selected fabric to make herself a new dress, her first personal purchase in years. As Beau paid, the shop bell jangled and two rough-looking men entered. Ruby immediately recognized them as Blackwell's foreman. She turned away quickly, but not before one of them spotted her. "Well, look who it is," the man drawled. "Blackwell's runaway." Beau's hand moved to his gun. "The lady is with me, gentlemen, legally and properly." "That right, cause Blackwell's mighty upset about losing his investment, says you stole her. I paid fair and square," Beau replied evenly. He signed a bill of sale. The second man spat on the floor. "Doesn't matter, boss wants her back. Says he's got unfinished business." Ruby felt ice in her veins. Blackwell wouldn't rest until he punished her for escaping, regardless of the transaction with Beau. "You tell your boss," Beau said, his voice dangerously quiet, "that Miss Barton is under my protection now. Any man who comes for her will meet my Winchester first." The standoff stretched for several tense seconds before the men backed down. "Your funeral, Mitchell," one muttered as they left the store. The shopkeeper looked nervously between them. "You've made an enemy of Blackwell." "That's bad business, Beau." "Some business isn't worth doing," Beau replied, gathering their purchases. "Come on, Ruby. We should head back." The ride home was tense, both of them watching for pursuit. Back at the cabin, Beau immediately began checking his weapons and reinforcing the door. "You should leave," Ruby said, her voice breaking. "Go somewhere Blackwell can't find you. This is my trouble, not yours." Beau stopped what he was doing and faced her. "Ruby, I'm not leaving you to face him alone. He'll kill you, all because of me." "No," Beau said firmly. "All because he's a man who thinks he can own people. I made my choice the night I took you from that ranch, and I don't regret it." "Why?" Ruby demanded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Why risk everything for me?" Beau crossed to her, gently taking her hands in his. "Because from the moment I saw you carrying those water buckets, trying to be invisible but still holding your head up, I knew you were someone worth knowing, someone worth protecting." The intensity in his blue eyes made Ruby's breath catch. For the first time, she allowed herself to acknowledge the feelings that had been growing between them, the warmth in her chest when he smiled at her, the way her skin tingled when their hands accidentally touched. "I'm afraid," she whispered. "I know," Beau said, "but we'll face it together." That night, though nothing had physically changed between them, something fundamental had shifted. Ruby lay awake in the bed, listening to Beau's steady breathing from his place by the fire, feeling both terrified and exhilarated by the emotions churning inside her. The peace they had found couldn't last, and they both knew it. 3 days later, a rider approached the cabin around midday. Beau immediately sent Ruby inside while he confronted the visitor, rifle in hand. To Ruby's surprise, it wasn't one of Blackwell's men but the sheriff from Nevada City, Walter Harrison, a gruff but fair-minded man who'd been in office as long as Ruby could remember. "Mitchell," the sheriff greeted, dismounting. "Miss Barton, thought I might find you up here." "What brings you, Sheriff?" Beau asked cautiously. Harrison removed his hat, revealing a balding head slick with sweat from the ride. Blackwell's making trouble, claims you abducted his property." "That's a lie," Ruby said, stepping onto the porch. "Beau bought my contract." Blackwell took his money and signed the paper. "You have this paper?" Harrison asked Beau. Beau nodded. "Inside. But it doesn't matter legally, Sheriff, you know that. Ruby's a free woman, not property to be sold." Harrison sighed heavily. "I know that, and you know that." But Blackwell's got half the county council in his pocket. He's stirring up his men, saying you stole from him. There's talk of a posse. Ruby felt her newfound world tilting beneath her feet. "What can we do?" "You could leave," Harrison suggested. "Head to Oregon or Idaho, start fresh." Beau's jaw tightened. "This is my land, Sheriff. Everything I've worked for is here. I won't be run off it by a bully like Blackwell." "Then you'd best be prepared," Harrison warned. "Blackwell's not a man who forgets a slight. He's coming, Mitchell. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but he's coming." After the sheriff departed, Ruby and Beau sat at the table, the weight of their situation heavy between them. "He's right, you know," Ruby said softly. "You should leave. Take your horses and go somewhere Blackwell can't reach." Beau reached across the table, covering her hand with his. "What about you? I'll figure something out. Maybe go east. Lots of women finding work in the factories these days. And if that's not the life you want," Ruby swallowed hard, "it's better than causing your death." Beau's expression softened. "Ruby, do you know why I've never asked about your plans? Why I've never suggested you move on?" She shook her head. "Because I've been hoping you'd want to stay, not as someone I rescued, but as—" He paused, uncharacteristically uncertain. "As someone who might share my dreams." Ruby's heart pounded. "Beau, I know it's too soon," he hurried on. "And after what you've been through, the last thing you need is another man making claims on you. But I want you to know that whatever comes next, I want to face it with you. If you'll have me." The sincerity in his eyes undid her. For 3 months he had shown her nothing but respect and kindness, asking nothing in return. He had given her space to heal, to find herself again. "I don't want to leave," she admitted, turning her hand to lace her fingers with his. "Not without you." The smile that broke across Beau's face was like sunrise after the longest night. He brought her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. "Then we stay and fight," he said, "together." That evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, Beau taught Ruby how to shoot his spare revolver. Her hands shook at first, the weight of the weapon, the responsibility of its power, overwhelming. "Easy," Beau murmured, standing behind her to adjust her stance. "Breathe out as you squeeze the trigger." The first shot went wild, the recoil jarring her arm. By the 10th shot, she was hitting the cans he'd set up more often than not. "Good," he said, pride evident in his voice. "You're a natural." Ruby lowered the gun, turning to face him. They stood close, the fading daylight casting long shadows around them. Beau's eyes dropped to her lips, then back to her eyes, asking a silent question. Answering, Ruby stretched up on her toes and pressed her lips gently to his. The kiss was tentative at first, then deepened as Beau's arms encircled her waist. When they broke apart, both were breathless. "I've wanted to do that for weeks," Beau confessed. Ruby smiled. "I've wanted you to." That night, for the first time, Beau didn't sleep by the fire. Instead, he shared the narrow bed with Ruby, holding her close, their bodies fitting together as if designed for each other. Nothing more happened beyond kisses and whispered conversations deep into the night. But for Ruby, it was a revelation intimacy based on choice and respect, not ownership and fear. The next week passed in a strange dichotomy of joy and dread. During the day, they reinforced the cabin, stockpiled ammunition, and created defensive positions. In the evenings, they explored their deepening relationship, learning each other's histories, dreams, and desires. Ruby told Beau about her mother's death. her father's decline, the moment she realized he saw her as a burden rather than a daughter. Beau spoke of his sister Hannah, who died in a St. Louis brothel before he could save her, and his vow to never stand by while another suffered a similar fate. "Is that all I am to you?" Ruby asked one night as they lay together. "Someone to save, to make up for Hannah?" Beau propped himself up on one elbow, looking down at her with earnest eyes. "When I first saw you at Blackwell's, maybe that's how it started. But now—" He traced the curve of her cheek with his fingertips. "Now you're the woman I want to build a life with, if you'll have me." Ruby reached up to touch his face, wondering at how this man, this good, honorable man, had found her in the darkness. "I will," she whispered. "I will." The attack came at dawn 3 days later. Ruby woke to the sound of horses approaching, many horses. Beau was already up, rifle in hand. "At least 8 riders," he reported grimly, peering through the window. "Blackwell's with them." Ruby's mouth went dry. She pulled on her dress with trembling fingers and checked the revolver Beau had given her. "Stay inside," Beau instructed, heading for the door. "Use the gun only if they break in." "I'm coming with you," Ruby said firmly. "We face this together, remember?" Beau hesitated, then nodded. They stepped onto the porch side by side as the riders approached. Blackwell led the group, his face twisted with malice. "Morning, Mitchell," he called, reining in his horse. "Brought some friends to discuss our business arrangement." "We have no business, Blackwell," Beau replied evenly, his rifle held casually but ready. "You sold Miss Barton's contract. Transaction complete." Blackwell's eyes shifted to Ruby, standing tall beside Beau. The naked hatred in his gaze made her skin crawl, but she refused to shrink from it. "That contract was for labor only," Blackwell said, "not for you to take her to your bed." "Miss Barton makes her own choices now," Beau replied, "and you're trespassing on my property." Blackwell laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the mountainside. "Your property? This valley will be mine by winter. No one defies me and keeps their land." "Is that a threat?" "It's a fact." Blackwell gestured to his men. 8 guns against your 1. Simple arithmetic, Cowboy. Give us the girl and maybe you walk away." Ruby's hand tightened on her hidden revolver. "I'm not going anywhere with you. Still got spirit. Good." Blackwell's smile was predatory. "Breaking it will be all the sweeter." Beau's voice remained steady. "Ride away, Blackwell. Whatever you're planning, it's not worth the consequences." "What consequences? Sheriff's 3 hours away." "No witnesses up here." Blackwell drew his pistol. "Last chance." Ruby saw the decision in Beau's eyes a split second before he moved. He shoved her behind one of the porch pillars as he fired, the shot catching Blackwell's nearest man in the shoulder. The valley erupted in gunfire. Beau ducked behind a water barrel, returning shots with deadly accuracy. Ruby fired from her position, forcing Blackwell's men to scatter for cover. "Circle around," Blackwell shouted to his remaining men. "Burn them out if you have to." 2 riders broke off, heading toward the back of the cabin. Ruby took careful aim and fired, catching one in the leg. He tumbled from his horse, screaming curses. Beau was a whirlwind of controlled fury, each shot finding its mark. 3 of Blackwell's men were down, a 4th retreating with a wounded arm. But they were still outnumbered, and Ruby knew their ammunition wouldn't last forever. A bullet splintered the wood inches from her head. She ducked lower, heart hammering against her ribs. Across the yard, she saw Blackwell dismount, using his horse as cover while he reloaded. "Beau," she called. "Blackwell's moving in from the left." Beau nodded acknowledgement, shifting his position to counter the threat. But as he moved, one of Blackwell's men broke cover and fired. The bullet caught Beau in the side, spinning him to the ground. "Beau!" Ruby screamed, terror flooding her veins as she saw blood spreading across his shirt. She fired wildly at Blackwell's man, forcing him back into cover, then dashed to Beau's side. He was conscious but pale, pressing his hand to the wound. "I'm all right," he gasped. "Grazed me." But Ruby could see it was more than a graze. Blood pulsed between his fingers with each heartbeat. "We need to get inside," she urged, helping him to his feet. They stumbled toward the cabin door as bullets kicked up dirt around their feet. Once inside, Ruby barricaded the door with the heavy table, then helped Beau to a chair. "The medicine box," he directed through gritted teeth. "Under the bed." Ruby retrieved it, her hands shaking as she cut away his shirt to reveal the wound. The bullet had torn through the flesh of his side, leaving an angry furrow that bled profusely, but hadn't hit anything vital. She cleaned it as best she could, packing it with the herbs Martha had taught her to use for wounds, then bound it tightly with strips of clean cloth. "It's not too bad," she told him, trying to sound confident. Beau managed a pained smile. "Good, because we're not done yet." Outside, Blackwell was rallying his remaining men. "Burn it!" they heard him shout. "Smoke them out!" Ruby ran to the window. 2 men were approaching with burning torches, aiming for the dry wood of the cabin's exterior. "The rifle," Beau said urgently. "Quick!" Ruby handed him his Winchester. Despite his wound, Beau's aim was true. The first torch-bearer fell with a bullet in his thigh. The second retreated, throwing his torch, which fell short of the cabin. "They'll try again," Beau said grimly. Ruby knew he was right. Blackwell wouldn't leave until he had what he came for her, broken and subjugated, and Beau dead. Her mind raced, searching for options. Then she remembered. "The tunnel," she said suddenly. Beau looked up, understanding dawning. When they'd reinforced the cabin, they'd discovered an old mining tunnel beneath the floor, likely dug by prospectors years before. It ran 20 yards to emerge in a dense thicket of pines. "You could slip out, get to the horses we hid in the upper meadow," Beau suggested. Ruby shook her head firmly. "I'm not leaving you." "Ruby, no," she cut him off. "We both go or neither of us does." Beau looked ready to argue, then grimaced as pain shot through his wound. "All right," he conceded. "Together." They gathered what they could carry, the remaining ammunition, water, Beau's money pouch. Ruby helped him to the trapdoor hidden beneath the bearskin rug, supporting his weight as he lowered himself into the darkness. Just as she was about to follow, a crash from the front of the cabin made her freeze. They were trying to break down the door. Without thinking, Ruby grabbed the lantern from the table and hurled it against the wall. The oil splashed and ignited, flames racing up the dry timber. "Ruby!" Beau called from below. "What are you doing?" "Making sure they can't follow us," she replied, dropping down beside him and pulling the trapdoor shut. "Let's go." The tunnel was low and narrow, forcing them to crouch as they moved. Beau struggled, each step clearly agonizing, but he pushed forward, one arm around Ruby's shoulders. Behind them, they could hear shouts of alarm as the cabin fire spread. "Almost there," Ruby encouraged as they approached the tunnel's exit. Dirt and small stones rained down as the ground shook above them, the cabin collapsing, she realized. They emerged into the pine thicket, Beau leaning heavily against a tree trunk, his face gray with pain. "Rest a minute," Ruby said, helping him sit. She peered through the trees toward the burning cabin. Black smoke billowed into the blue sky, and she could see Blackwell's men scrambling to control their panicking horses. "They think we're dead in there," she realized. Beau nodded, grimacing. "Good. Gives us time to get away." "Can you make it to the horses?" He pushed himself up, determination in every line of his face. "Lead the way." The journey to the upper meadow was slow and grueling. Twice Beau nearly collapsed, but each time he rallied, drawing on reserves of strength Ruby marveled at. When they finally reached the hidden clearing where they'd pastured 2 horses as a precaution, Ruby could have wept with relief. Getting Beau into the saddle was a challenge, but once mounted, He seemed to find new resolve. Ruby swung up onto the second horse, and they set off along a game trail that led deeper into the mountains, away from the burning remains of their home. "Where are we going?" Ruby asked as they rode. "My friend Jack has a line cabin another 10 miles north," Beau replied, his voice strained but determined. "We can rest there, regroup." By the time they reached the cabin, a simple one-room structure used during cattle drives, Beau was swaying in the saddle, his bandages soaked through with blood. Ruby helped him inside and onto the single cot, fear clenching her heart as she saw how pale he'd become. "You need a doctor," she said, rewrapping his wound. "Too risky," Beau murmured. "Blackwell will have men watching the trails to town." Ruby knew he was right. For now, they were on their own. She cleaned the wound again, relieved to find it had stopped bleeding so heavily, then prepared a broth from the sparse provisions in the cabin. "Drink," she ordered, holding the cup to his lips. "You need your strength." Beau complied, his eyes never leaving her face. When he finished, he caught her hand in his. "Ruby," he said softly, "if this goes badly, it won't," she interrupted fiercely. "I won't let it. If it does," he continued stubbornly, "I want you to know that loving you has been the best part of my life, short as it's been." Tears stung Ruby's eyes. "Don't talk like that. You're going to be fine." "I mean it," Beau persisted. "Meeting you changed everything. Whatever happens next, I don't regret a single moment." Ruby bent to kiss him, tasting the salt of her own tears on his lips. "I love you, Beau Mitchell. And we're going to get through this together." For 3 days, they remained at the line cabin, Beau growing stronger with each passing day. Ruby foraged for herbs, hunted small game, and kept watch for pursuit. On the 4th day, they heard the approach of horses. Ruby grabbed Beau's rifle, taking up position by the window. "Stay down," she whispered to Beau, who was sitting up on the edge of the cot, revolver in hand. 2 riders appeared at the edge of the clearing, not Blackwell's men, but Sheriff Harrison and his deputy. "Mitchell, Miss Barton." The sheriff called. "It's Harrison. We're alone." Ruby opened the door cautiously, rifle still ready. "How did you find us?" Harrison dismounted, hands visible. "Tracked you from what's left of your cabin. Impressive fire, by the way. What do you want?" Beau asked, appearing behind Ruby, still pale but standing under his own power. Harrison removed his hat. "Thought you should know Maxwell Blackwell is dead." The news hit Ruby like a physical blow. "Dead? How?" "Shot by one of his own men," Harrison explained, following them inside. "Fellow named Jenkins. Seems Blackwell blamed him for letting you escape the fire, beat him half to death." Jenkins pulled his gun, put 2 bullets in Blackwell's chest. Beau sank onto a chair, wincing at the movement. "What happens now?" "That's partly why I'm here," Harrison said. "Jenkins is singing like a canary, telling tales about Blackwell's operations, rustling, intimidation, bribery. Turns out our upstanding rancher was neck-deep in criminal enterprises." "That doesn't surprise me," Ruby said bitterly. Harrison nodded. "He also confirmed your story, Miss Barton, about being sold by your father, about Mitchell buying your contract. Not that it matters legally, as the contract itself was illegal, but it clears your names with the townsfolk." "So, we're free to go back?" Beau asked. "Your land's still yours," Harrison confirmed, "though your cabin's a total loss." Ruby and Beau exchanged glances, silent communication passing between them. "We'll rebuild," Beau said confidently. "Stronger this time." 2 weeks later, they returned to the mountain property. The cabin was indeed gone, nothing but a blackened rectangle of earth where it had stood. But the stables had survived, and the corral, and the small garden plot was already showing signs of recovery. "It'll take time," Beau said as they surveyed the damage. His wound was healing well, the pain reduced to an occasional twinge. "We have time," Ruby replied, slipping her hand into his. Word of their ordeal had spread through Nevada City. As they began clearing the ruins, neighbors appeared, miners, shopkeepers, other ranchers bringing lumber, tools, food. Many had suffered under Blackwell's tyranny and saw Beau and Ruby stand as a victory for all of them. By autumn, a new cabin stood on the site, larger, sturdier, with real glass windows and a stone chimney. On a crisp October morning, as the aspens blazed gold against the mountainside, Beau and Ruby stood before the local preacher and a gathering of newfound friends. "Do you, Beau Mitchell, take Ruby Barton to be your lawfully wedded wife?" the preacher asked. "I do," Beau answered, his blue eyes never leaving Ruby's face. "And do you, Ruby Barton, take Beau Mitchell to be your lawfully wedded husband?" "I do," Ruby replied, her heart so full she thought it might burst. "Then, by the authority vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife." Their kiss was a promise, sealed before witnesses but made long before in quiet moments of courage and trust. The celebration lasted well into the evening, with fiddle music, dancing, and more food than Ruby had seen in one place since before her mother died. As the party wound down, she found herself standing on the porch of their new home, watching the stars appear one by one. Beau joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Happy, Mrs. Mitchell, more than I ever thought possible," she admitted, leaning back against his chest. "When my father sold me to Blackwell, I thought my life was over. I never imagined that you'd end up with a half-built ranch and a husband who can't seem to stay out of trouble," Beau teased. Ruby turned in his arms to face him. "That I'd find someone who saw me as a person, not property. Someone who would risk everything for my freedom." "I'd do it all again," Beau said seriously. "Every bullet, every burn, every dollar." "So would I," Ruby whispered. Over the following year, their home and ranch flourished. Beau's dream of breeding horses took shape as they acquired new stock. Ruby discovered a talent for garden herbs and medicines, with locals coming from miles around for her remedies. In the spring, Sheriff Harrison brought unexpected news. "Your father's been arrested," he told Ruby as they sat around the kitchen table. "Tried to sell another girl, a 16-year-old whose mother had died. Her brother objected with a shotgun. Thomas Barton's cooling his heels in the territorial prison now." Ruby absorbed this silently. She'd made her peace with her father's betrayal, but hearing of another girl nearly suffering her fate reopened old wounds. "How's the girl?" she asked finally. "Staying with her brother's family," Harrison replied. "She's all right, shaken but all right." That night, Ruby told Beau she wanted to find the girl to offer her a place with them if she needed it. "Not everyone has someone to save them," she explained. "Not everyone has a Beau Mitchell." Beau agreed without hesitation. "Our home is big enough for those who need shelter," he said. "And our hearts are too." The girl, Abigail, stayed with them for 6 months before finding work as a teacher's assistant in Nevada City. In the years that followed, others came, women escaping abusive situations, orphan children, even a young Chinese man fleeing railroad company thugs. Some stayed briefly. Others became part of the extended family that grew around the Mitchell Ranch. On their 5th wedding anniversary, as they sat on the porch of their now thriving homestead, watching their 3-year-old son Daniel playing with the ranch dogs, Beau presented Ruby with a small wooden box. Inside was a silver locket, intricately engraved with mountain scenes. When she opened it, she found a tiny portrait of their family on one side. On the other was inscribed, "Worth every penny." Ruby looked up questioningly. $100, Beau explained, his voice husky with emotion. "Best investment I ever made." "Oh, Beau," Ruby whispered, tears filling her eyes. "When I think of where I'd be if you hadn't come along." "Don't," he said gently. What matters is where we are now and where we're going. Ruby clasped the locket around her neck, then took Beau's hand, placing it over her rounded belly. "Speaking of where we're going," she said with a smile, "we'll need another bedroom by winter." Beau's face lit with joy as he understood. He gathered her into his arms, holding her as if she were the most precious thing in the world, and to him she was. Not as property purchased for a handful of coins, but as a partner chosen with his heart, a woman whose courage had matched his own step for step. Together they had built something neither could have created alone, a home where freedom and love were the only currency that mattered. As the sun set behind the mountains they both loved, Ruby leaned her head against Beau's shoulder. From property to partner, from captive to creator of her own destiny, the journey had been hard, but the destination was worth every step. "I love you, Beau Mitchell," she murmured. "And I love you, Ruby Mitchell," he replied, "for all the days of my life." In the valley below, Nevada City's lights began to twinkle as darkness fell. But on the mountainside, the Mitchell Ranch glowed with its own light, a beacon of hope in a harsh land, a testament to love that had conquered cruelty, and would continue to do so for generations to come.